Good afternoon. I'm Meg Rhodes, and I'm the priest at St. Anne's Episcopal Church. And I know that we are all going through a whole lot right now, and I'm hoping that in this time, as I figure out how to be a priest in this time, we'll all figure out how to be Christians at a very, very difficult time. And the good news is, as hard as this is, the church has been here before. We've done this many, many times, and in all ways, I think we can always look back to the mothers and fathers that came before us to look for advice, counsel, and wisdom for how do we do this today, because I'm not sure we know how to do this, and I can only speak for myself, but I don't know how to be a priest without a parish. And that doesn't mean that my parish does not still exist, but it's different, and I'm figuring that out at the same time that you are figuring that out. And I'm also figuring out how to homeschool my kids, and that's weird. So the good news is we're all going to figure this out together, and I will try to be a little bit more present online, and hopefully we'll all be together in this. And if you have ideas, things that you want to see, things that you really like, things that you think are stupid, please let me know. And like I said, we'll figure this out together. As I was thinking about this, and I referenced her a little bit on Sunday, Dame Julian of Norwich, who was an incredible lady. And somebody asked me for a little bit more information about her, and I'm not one to waste an opportunity to use a medieval degree, so I thought I'd share a little bit more about her. Julian of Norwich was an anchoress, which means that she lived completely alone in a cell, and she was probably a fairly young adult when she chose to do that. And you had to qualify for it, so you had to be strictly spiritual enough that you were equipped to handle that kind of spiritual life. It wasn't something that you just get to be like, I hate people, I'm going to go live in the woods. No, she had to qualify for it. And so she was a really, really awesome person. And so she decided to do that. And here's the interesting thing. We don't actually know what her name was. We call her Julian of Norwich, and that's because she lived in a cell attached to a church, St. Julian's of Norwich. So we honestly don't really know what her name was. But she wrote a whole lot. She wrote the Divine Revelation of God, which was a beautiful work, and I highly recommend that you take a look and see if you can find anything in there, because she was a mystic. And what's really interesting at this time is that she wrote about the nature of God being one of love and hope, and being very spiritually with us, which was kind of new and different at that time. This is a time of God being an angry, judgmental God. And so for this woman to be writing things where that was not her belief about God, and she was willing to share these visions that she had. She even referenced God as mother, which is, I think, really cool. Maybe you don't, but I thought it was really cool. So the most important thing about all of this is that she wrote this in the Middle Ages. She was active at the height of the Black Death, which is one of the worst things that has ever happened to humans in this world. It was a horrible, devastating event. And similar to us today, people just didn't know what to do with it. And it's a little bit different today because we are able to connect via different medias and things like that, and that wasn't necessarily the case. This was a highly contagious disease. They didn't know how it was spread. They didn't have the same germ theory that we have today, and they didn't have the same resources that we have today. And so here you have a woman who is living in the face of extreme patriarchy, obviously, at the time of the Middle Ages, and she's living in the midst of disease and pestilence and all these horrible, awful things. And she's able to talk about God and love and joy and hope and wonder. And she's able to be a resource to other people. People came to her to seek counsel, to seek hope, and to talk to her about things and to figure out their own spiritual lives. And in a world where we are choosing to quarantine ourselves, she might possibly be our patron saint. We have a woman who chose to quarantine herself, to pull herself out of the system, and yet is one of the most powerful religious figures that we have. What does that mean for us today? What can we learn from that? And I think so much. We are not doing this alone. We've done this before. We will do it again. And we will seek peace. We will seek hope. We will seek love. We will find Christ in each other. And we'll do it in a new way. And I hope that we are a source of light and life and wonder for all people. And I hope that we can do that for each other. And I think if there's one thing possibly that we can learn from her in the midst of chaos, if you can find a little space, a lot of love, a nice cat, and a good book, we're all going to be okay. Go in peace to love and serve the world. Amen.